The kids get to walk around and they're excited by the noise and the color and the fact that there's no rules. Like, you can run and scream and just really have a wonderful day in the sun. But the chances that you're going to meet somebody that flew that thing, built that thing, maintains that thing, handles the navigation systems or the technology of the drone, the airplane, the whatever, both military and civilian, that connection is going to be what you're talking about at the dinner table when you go home that night.
Hi, I'm Jeff Holden. Welcome to the Nonprofit Podcast Network. Our purpose and passion is to highlight a nonprofit organization in each weekly episode, giving that organization an opportunity to tell their story in their words to better inform and educate the respective communities they serve, as well as provide one more tool for them to share their message to constituents and donors. Our goal is to help build stronger communities through shared voices and to both encourage and support the growth of local nonprofit organizations through podcasting. Thanks to our founding partners for their foresight in helping us transform the way conversations start. CapTrust, fiduciary advice for endowments and foundations. Runyon Saltzman Incorporated, RSE, marketing, advertising, and public relations creating integrated communications committed to improving lives. And Western Health Advantage, a full-service healthcare plan for individuals, employer groups, and families. Sacramento has long been an important part of our military's Air Force with McClellan, Beale, and Mather air bases surrounding the region. It only makes sense that we would be home to one of the top air shows in the country, like the number 3 air show in the country for size, complexity, elaborate hospitality, creative performance choreography, and the fact that it's so much more than just an air show. It's a year-round mission that is engaged in making an impact well beyond what we see in the skies every summer. And if that was all it was, man, is that impressive. But that's just the beginning. That's what we see. We're going to learn so much more about what else it is that gives the air show so much weight, so much value, so much presence in our region, as I speak with the executive director for over 16 years, Darcy Brewer, a pilot herself. Darcy, welcome to the Nonprofit Podcast Network.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am thrilled to have you in studio because this is a conversation I've been wanting to have for quite some time. The California Capitol Air Show has now been around for about 19 years.
It has.
Of that 19, 16 of them have been led by you. Tell us how this all just came to be. You've got a wealth of information about not only the air show itself, but the history of how it came to be in our community.
Well, I hope it's never forgotten that the Sacramento region has a long history in both aviation and military service. So at the end of World War I, 1918, Mather Airport, it was called something else at the time, opened up to serve our nation and our region, and the whole community jumped in. I mean, there was no buildings, there was no hard surface runway, but there's a lot of stories and a lot of connections and a lot of community involvement for such a massive military facility at the time that lived to serve as a military facility for 75 years, closing in 1993. The air show was born to make sure that we kept that history and those stories and all those connections alive as Sacramento County Department of Airports took over the property from the Air Force, and they were celebrating their 10th anniversary of having the responsibility, not yet ownership, not yet full ownership because there was a process. So they thought, well, people miss their air show, and military facilities have open houses every 3 to 5 years when, depending on what the ops tempo, global ops tempo is, right? So a group of people, 7 founding members of this organization, got together and said, the families of this region and the veterans of this region deserve a celebration. Why not do it now when we're celebrating 10 years of operating this airport? So there was a little display show on Mother's Day. I'm pretty sure it rained. And they expected a few thousand people to come out and see some display aircraft. And I remember the director of airports at the time. It was 3 directors ago. And he said, let's plan for this. and let's make sure that we've got the chamber and visit Sacramento and the city of Rancho Cordova, all the players that touch the edge of this perimeter space, and let's have a party and honor those who served here and those who were born here and those who flew out of here or wrenched or whatever. And 25,000 people showed up, and they weren't ready for services and Highway 50 and all of that sort of thing. So, of course, there were far more people involved the next year in 2006 when we had our first flying show. I wasn't around at that time. I was watching from outside of the fence, although I was in aviation. And the board didn't start courting me until 2008. And anyway, it was wonderful. The community responded. Veterans, grandparents, and great-grandparents got to show, their grandchildren, what they did during whatever time of service, Korea or Vietnam or World War II or what have you. And we got to share their stories. Our organization got to share their stories of service and sacrifice and courage and honor and what it takes to get there, the right stuff, all that sort of thing. And really, our mission never changed from that very first display show. Our mission, vision, and values were to honor those who have served, and that goes for military, first responders, anybody who's coming to our aid and giving up their time with families to make our community and our nation a better place, to shine a spotlight on a region that we love, especially when you look back to 1918 and what this community was doing to sort of bind together and make sure everybody had what they needed. And most of all, we spend our time and our resources on inspiring the next generation. But it's evolved since then.
As a display, at that point in time, was it really just the event, done, one and done, and over?
It was just the event. It was an opportunity to see both military and civilian aircraft that the general public didn't have access to at any airport, and talk to the people who designed it, wrenched it, flew it, but not actually feel the rumble in your chest like you get to do at the Airshow. And it was very popular. It was more popular the next year when we were really rumbling over the skies, and then we've done it every year since 2006, and it just keeps growing and becoming more complex and serving more groups and students and individuals, and there's all sorts of things there going on. We'll talk to.
Second.
Yeah.
I do want to address one thing, and that's the popularity of air shows across the country. They're a big deal in the communities that have them, and there's a leadership of these air shows, not unlike yourself.
Right.
And we were talking about that leadership of these air shows and how the dynamic has changed from what it used to be to what it is today. Will you address that a little bit? Because I think it's a real testament to the work that's being put in and the accomplishments that not only you, but the others that you'll address in just a second across the country are doing.
Yeah. Well, much like aviation itself, the number of women that serve in a leadership role. And let me tell you, one of the biggest surprises I got when I first accepted this role, and of course there was no, memo, there was no operational binder, like you just figure it out, right? Bring everybody in, figure it out. Make sure that you're safe. Everything else after that will work. But there's the actual International Council of Air Shows. We have an industry. In North America, there's about 350 of me, people that are the shoelace to bring the volunteers, the community, the funders, our media partners, everybody together each year and make sure they're informed and included and meet their objectives by helping the organization out. I remember in 2011, the industry wanted to herald the women that were up and coming in this industry that were serving their communities.
13 years ago.
All right. And so we did a photo shoot, which I'm not a big fan, but we did a photo shoot and there was 5 of us. I think there was 7 total and 2 of them couldn't make the photo shoot because it was out of state. And
so roughly 300 or so.
Out of 350. And it was just amazing to me. Now we do an annual photo shoot just for ourselves. It's not on the cover of our industry magazine, although we seem to make one of the pages after the conference each year where we come together and collaborate and see what we can do better and how we can be safer and what cool things that nobody's ever seen we can have on the ground or in the air or throughout the year. And the numbers have grown just enormously. So the last photo shoot we did, I think there was about 60 of us.
That's awesome.
So from 7 to 60 in that short period of time, and we're all doing things. I mean, we're all doing such cool things and stealing from each other. And anytime there's
sharing. Sharing.
We are very close because each of us have our own geography, right?
Yeah.
But it's so much fun to work with these people, these up-and-coming visionaries, and talk about how we serve our community and how we take care of the public.
I love to see that.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun for us.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, and we're a force to be reckoned with anyway, so. Because we're all so shy and,
I can only imagine
quiet.
a woman that's running an air show being shy.
There's some complexity to it, no matter the size. Now, there's small air shows, there's medium air shows, and there's large air shows. Mm-hmm. We're one of the top 5 in North America.
Congratulations.
Mostly on complexity, and, our team takes full credit for the fact we have a huge airport and a 2-mile runway that people dream of having to produce something of this size.
The quality and caliber of the air teams that you bring here, for example, Blue Angels,
Thunderbirds. Frecce Tricolore was just here for the first time in 32 years. In 2017, we had the oldest jet team on the face of the earth, which was Patrol de France. It's very interesting to me, and I think it's a credit to the board of directors that I serve and the 1,300 volunteers that pull this off every year that make the big show go, that when folks from outside North America that are coming very long distances for a North American tour to honor some moment in time, and it doesn't happen very often, somehow end up in our state capital at that fabulous airport as they're receiving show. So when they first come here, Customs gets them, and we get to launch them for the first time pretty regularly. It's quite a feather in our cap, and it meets our customer surveys that often say, please give us something we've never seen before. And we got to do it this year in 2024, and it was a mind-blowing air show.
Amazing. It's just amazing.
We loved it. Like little kids, all of us.
I can imagine. And the little kids as well.
Yeah.
You have on the website, if you can see it, you can be it.
Yes.
Well, it's hard to miss the mass of the planes and the energy and the fact that you're filling our sky with these man-made monstrosities.
Sure, that defy the laws of physics and nature sometimes with
gravity.
With what they do. Yeah, absolutely.
But the air show is really just the tip of the iceberg.
Right.
Many organizations have their annual fundraisers. It's a dinner, it's a golf tournament, it's whatever. Yours is the air show.
Yes.
It's much more visible than most others.
Well, and louder.
And yes, and faster.
Right.
Tell us what that foundation really is all about, because it's far, far beyond the air show, which is a couple days on a weekend.
Yeah.
Whereas you've got another 50 plus weeks where you're doing something that has really nothing to do with the air show.
Right.
Tell us about that.
We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We're the Capital Air Show Group, and we produce the California Capital Air Show each year, and we're very proud of it. And that's the thrills, chills, and jaw-dropping excitement that brings visitors to this region and brings everybody together for some cool fun with hot performances, and that's really cool. But in its earliest years, the 501c3 was approved so that we could provide scholarships to kids from across the region that dreamed of changing the world and just need a little help with tuition to do it. And so we were a scholarship-driven organization. What we learned very quickly was when you watch us on the news or you hear any interview I do with somebody else, it is about that thrilling entertainment, extreme sport. It's one of the largest outdoor sports in North America when you combine all the attendees for those 350 shows that we talked about. But the reality is, and what people don't necessarily buy a ticket for, but they experience anyway, is it is a giant career day. Mm-hmm. So we're 3,000 acres, of which 204 of those acres are exhibitors and interactive activities and all the things that go into a job that might touch on aviation, whether it's helicopters or aircraft or drones or, law enforcement, fire,
technology behind it,
all of the things. So what I think the most valuable part of attending the show is, especially when you bring, a family out, is the kids get to walk around and they're excited by the noise and the color and the fact that there's, stay out of jet engines, but other than that, there's no rules. Like you can run and scream and just really have a wonderful day in the sun. But the chances that you're going to meet somebody that flew that thing, built that thing, maintains that thing, handles the navigation systems or the technology of the drone, the airplane, the whatever, both military and civilian, is that connection is going to be what you're talking about at the dinner table when you go home that night and the gates close. And initially our intention was, let's make sure that these folks know how to feed the what's next, make sure that the Boy Scouts and Civil Air Patrol and Sea Cadets and the Girl Scouts and the robotics team and all the things, whether you're in kindergarten or you're getting ready to graduate from high school, that you can find a what's next out there and continue whatever you were passionate about on that Saturday or Sunday afternoon. And that's what we're all about, but we carry it through the entire year.
And that's not only the, let's say, the student or the child who's now exposed to something maybe they have never seen before, maybe a
Very
plane,
likely.
Yeah,
They've
right?
never seen it before.
A plane in the sky, but the reality that I can actually touch, feel, and get a really tactical experience there of so many different things.
Sure.
And another part of that is the entire STEM process.
Which is all totally
There.
aviation, aerospace, and related fields that design and innovate. I mean, if you look, and when we talk about youth programs, I can tell you, when you look at the careers and the education or the trade training, the vocational training that's behind making all of that happen, it's fascinating. All the amazing jobs just to run an airport or run an airline or be part of a squadron in the military or law enforcement or fire. When these kids come out and they see our media partners with their big drones, and that's an efficiency, right? Or they see the electric vertical takeoff and landing vehicles that are already certified and maybe not operational that will become our Uber and Lyft of the future. We are really showcasing the jobs that are going to be available when these kids graduate from high school, if they're in 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th grade now, because we're talking about urban air mobility, we're talking about innovation, we're talking about sustainability, and really just creating efficiencies for every single person in this region and beyond. And those are the jobs we hope they get. They're rewarding, they're high paying, and there's just so many more of them. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that when we get to our aha moment, our light bulb with our first summer camp this year.
I can't wait to talk about that. So as a family, it's a family experience.
Sure.
So the child...
And you can't see it all in one day.
No.
So you always walk away wanting more. Yay for us, because we'd like them to come back 2 days and year
Right.
after year, and they do.
And the fact that that student now is exposed, now has an understanding, gets excited, like you said, talks about it.
And their
takes it to
parent or
class.
guardian or grandparent was standing there and saw that light go off.
Yeah.
And our intention is that they're able to nurture that long after the airshow gates close.
Exactly where I was going to say. Not only will that experience live with that family for the day, but throughout. And that
Sure.
student, child, whomever is going to bring it up. The parents are probably equally as
Sure.
amazed at some of the things that they saw, and maybe even more so amazed that their child was
Sure.
engaged. We found something that she
Sure.
really enjoys.
Yeah.
And yes, let's work it. Let's
You have
work it.
no idea how many conversations I've had with parents in the last 16 years thanking us for getting their teenager off the couch.
Love it.
and finding something that really excited them that they never knew existed before they came inside the gates at Mather Airport.
Tell us who it is you work with in the community. Who do you
Sure.
collaborate with? Because I would imagine the tentacles go pretty deep,
Sure.
given the experiences that continue to take place after the air show.
Yeah, and it continues to grow with every new program we develop and every new cool thing we have at the air show. But it started with Sacramento County, of course, because this is their airport that we run amok on all year round. So it wouldn't happen without 2 miles of runway and 3,000 acres and a whole bunch of hangars that become classrooms whenever I ask, thanks to the tenants on the field.
No problem with a big screen on a hangar. I'm sure you can put anything up on a wall there,
You
huh?
could, well, and the nice thing is we just had an event on September 21st, and our RSVPs filled up in a couple of days, and we went, oh my gosh, like we don't want to turn any curious mind away. These are all free programs that we produce. And then we reminded ourselves that each hangar that we borrow is 40,000 square feet. And as long as we just go out to some of our partners and say, hey, we need more hot dogs and and some salads and some water and a couple extra chairs, or a couple thousand extra chairs in the case of last month. It's not that hard to have several thousand people out, and they feel comfortable, and you can bring more assets in. There's running and playing and shrieking and all the things that happen when you're having fun and learning something in an interactive way. So those hangars are very important, and they become classrooms all year round. So
back to the organizations.
Partners.
That's okay.
Yeah. So Sacramento County and the city of Rancho Cordova that surrounds that county airport property like a hug are really driving forces in our expansion every year as it relates to families and students. I serve a board of 19 members, I think I mentioned. Those are my bosses. And although they're all volunteers, each of them represent a group or an organization, most of them longstanding in this region, that are committed to what we're doing, our mission, vision, and values. We have about 93 partners that provide the funding or the K-rail or the forklifts or the signage or whatever is required to set up 204 acres of fun and excitement. And law enforcement, we have a pretty, as you can imagine for an event of this size, we have a pretty big team led by Sacramento County Sheriff's Department, Airport Fire, and Metro Fire that partner with a wide variety of agencies and use this massive event as mission training so that when something does happen, they've already worked together. They know how the communication system, they can test new equipment. And so that's pretty exciting. And that example is pretty much runs through and through for this complex event. So when you come to park your car at the Airshow, or when you come to buy a lemonade or a hot dog or roasted corn or churros or whatever festival food you're going to enjoy, because we're not really healthy that weekend. Some people are, but, it's an opportunity to have some fun fair food.
There's a fried hour joke there, I know.
Yes, there is. It's interesting because we have about 30 other nonprofits involved in just the concessions operation and even more for our parking operation. That funding goes to, soccer clubs and cheerleaders and veterans groups and all these other people that give up their time. It's usually warm out there. You get up early in the morning. You're out there all day. You might get a little tan. You might be a little dehydrated if you don't watch it. And because of their sacrifice, they share in the revenue of the show, which was about $82,000 last year. And that's not insignificant for some of these smaller groups that are bringing 6 or 10 or 18 people out for the weekend to give up their weekend for the success of the show and the hospitality that we pride ourselves on. Mm-hmm. And those are just a few examples.
And that's wrapped around the show. How about the people?
And those same people jump in when it comes youth program time.
That's what I wanted to touch on.
And those same 1,300 volunteers, why we may only need 200 of them for a group of 4,000, that's the strongest bond that we have. When you're able to take a Saturday afternoon for 3 hours and you're not giving up a whole week of setup and breakdown and all the glamorous things that relate to my job, like fence lines and portable restrooms. And that's really what we're doing, trash and, making sure that everybody has this wonderful, clean, safe, family-friendly experience. That's a lot of hard work. The youth events are more manageable, and you get a chance to sit on the ground with a 10-year-old and hear their hopes and dreams and questions. And that's what brings people back to the Airshow every year, because they know that it's a wonderful event. And we get international attention here in Sacramento for our Airshow. But what we do the rest of the year will blow your mind and sometimes make you cry.
Organizations like you're dealing with foster kids.
We do.
Schools. Rattle off some of the beneficiaries of the rest of the year.
We work very closely with the Sacramento County Office of Education because they're in an adjoining parking lot. So we get a lot of guidance for needs and scheduling for our youth programs. We've worked with Target Excellence and the Girl Scout STEM Center and Roberts Family Development Center and Cottage Housing. And literally the lists go on, hundreds and hundreds of people on that list. But what we find is we'll pick a topic and we'll pick an age group, and then we send it out to our partners, and it fills up within a day. People can learn more about the types of programs we do, and whether it's elementary, junior high, high school, all the K through 12 topics that we come up with, and they can. The most special thing about it is they're really fun and they're all free, because of our sponsors and our supporters. All of our youth programs are free. In fact, at the Airshow, which is this giant career day, but that's not what they think. They want the Top Gun experience, and that's why they come in the gates. Education is the byproduct of your day with us. But even thanks to our supporters, we've evolved to a point where I won't say that children are free at the Airshow because we're not the shopping mall, so you can't just drop off your kids around a lot of jet engines. We want you to be there and see the impact on their face by spending the day with us. But I can tell you that thanks to the supporters in this community and their generosity, they've gotten us to a point where if you buy an adult general admission ticket, which is 50% off if you buy it months before the show, if you wait until the week of the show, then you pay your dues, right? But that general admission ticket allows for one adult, free parking, and up to 6 kids age 16 and under, or age 15 and under. So if you don't have a driver's license and can't come yourself, 2 parents can bring 12 kids, your neighbors, your cousins, their friends, and they can all have that same experience together. And we all watch the light bulb go off together. And then there's an adult there to make sure that they keep it going.
Well, shoot, if you can't drive, I'm sure SAC RT will get you there too in some way, shape, or form.
Well, we have some challenges because it's about a 1.25 mile walk. We used to do that. And then the show grew and it became a heavier lift, and we weren't able to partner with them. Getting people from Mill Station to the airport is the challenge. But if you bring your bike, we got you, because Saba's out there, another partner, providing bicycle valet so that people can watch their carbon footprint and get a little exercise.
Saba being Sacramento Area Bicycle Association.
Right, sorry.
Great group.
Yeah.
The acronyms, I know.
They're always there, right?
We always have to clarify.
I find myself speaking in code a lot, so you'll have to check me when we're talking about aircraft and their designation, F-22, A-10, whatever.
Well, as a pilot,
and then people, nobody knows what I'm talking about. I get kicked under the table, yeah.
Yeah, what is that? What plane is that? Have I seen
Sure.
that plane? We'll be back with more from Darcy Brewer on the enormity of putting on an air show right after this message from those who make the program possible. I was in the media business for over 35 years and had the great privilege of working with Runyon Saltzman, RSE, Marketing, Advertising, and Public Relations. We collaborated on many different campaigns, but their commitment to the nonprofit sector hasn't changed since their founder, Gene Runyon, started the agency. Over many years and many campaigns, Runyon Saltzman has been committed to improving lives by tackling California's most challenging issues. Guided by research-informed strategies and insightful, creative solutions, RSE develops innovative communications campaigns that raise awareness, educate, and reduce stigma in diverse communities throughout our state and beyond. To learn more about RSE, visit rs-e.com.
Hello, this is Scott Thomas with Cap Trust in our Sacramento office. I specialize in working with local nonprofits and associations. Annually, we survey private and public nonprofit organizations across the country to better understand challenges they see in today's environment. In our more recent survey, we heard concerns about proper board governance, mission-aligned investment, and how to implement alternative investments. If you would like a copy of the survey or to discuss your organization, look me up, Scott Thomas at captrust.com.
I'm thrilled to have Western Health Advantage partnering with us as they do so much to support so many nonprofit agencies in our community. As a truly local health plan, you'll find individual and family options, employer options, plans for CalPERS and Medicare Advantage. From medical services to pharmacy, health and wellness support, as well as behavioral health care, Western Health Advantage has a plan that fits what you need. As an employer, for profit or nonprofit business, individual or family, you can find more at westernhealth.com. That is a ton of work. So you have a massive event with over 1,000 volunteers that takes place over a long weekend.
Sure. 10 days to set up and another week to break down, which people don't know.
In the middle of the summer.
Yeah, so be kind to our volunteers when you come out.
But you have a series of events all year long.
Sure. We did about a dozen.
Those are events. When you bring all those students into a hangar, it's treated with that same amount of effort, and you've got food and setup and tear down, all that stuff.
Speakers and interactive activities and all of that sort of thing.
How many people do you do this with? How many people do you employ?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. So let me count. 1, 2. Oh, that's it. There's 2 of us. We just hired our first administrative assistant about 2 months ago. She works 2.5 days a week. She's a college student, has been an intern with us for 4 years. But there are no other staff now. We bring in specialists for the Airshow each year, but everything else is run by volunteers, and it's a magical thing.
That is an amazing amount of support from the community.
Yeah, we couldn't do it anywhere else. If it wasn't in Sacramento, we wouldn't be able to pull off. I travel across the country and across the world, and I'm always speaking about our mission, vision, and values to encourage others to make sure that their focus is on workforce development being a talent pipeline for their communities and employers. Right. And that's all I ever talk about. But they're always surprised at how many volunteers and how few staff. But it allows us to do other things. And the interesting thing is the board of directors selected 2 women. It wasn't their intention. That was just, that's how it worked out. And one of them is a pilot and one of them is a teacher. So between the 2, our inspiration has evolved into connection. So, and we just realized that in the last couple of years. We want to inspire people and educate them and inform them on what you can do and what's possible. But in the last few years, we've really honed our skills and gotten to a better place where we're actually taking that light bulb going off and connecting them to training, the certificate, the junior college, the university. Where's the funding going to come from to go and catch that dream, and making sure that they have a mentor through the process to build that resume and set that roadmap, that blueprint for success. And we didn't even realize it was happening at the time, that we've gone from inspiring to connecting. And I think that's what I'm most proud of about this group of people that work so hard all year round for a sandwich, a T-shirt, and as much bottled water as they can drink that's usually sponsored for us.
Right.
So it's pretty cool.
What a wonderful group. How about budget? What's the annual budget? Organization, not just the Airshow.
The whole organization is about $2.4 million each year. It grows a little bit each year as we add more programming and our show gets bigger and our hospitality gets a little fancier, because we do try to make the experience different every year. Nobody who's come to the Airshow would ever tell you, or any of our youth programs, oh, yeah, I saw that last year. It just doesn't happen, and that's intentional. So you can't see it all in one day, and it's different every year. That takes a little creativity, but we never run out of it, and prices keep going up, and just getting a truck to deliver water now is a little different than it was even 5 years ago. So when I first started this job, our entire annual budget was $520,000. So we've grown a lot, but not really when you look at 16 years.
No, to think that it's
and we run it on a shoestring. I will tell you,
right?
Not
Clearly.
the programming itself, whether it's the Airshow or our youth programs, but every sheet of paper, every pen, every rubber band, and our 207 square feet for our global headquarters. All of that matters.
Yeah, that is an incredible accomplishment given the amount of money that you're working with. Where else does money come from besides just the Airshow itself, the revenue from the Airshow?
Sure. That's a great question. So about 2/3 of our revenue comes from those who attend the Airshow and pay for a ticket. We've tried to make it as affordable as possible because the folks we want inside these gates, with the kids who are wondering what they're going to be when they grow up, sometimes budgets are tight. Right now, budgets are tight for everybody, and we keep that in mind in what we do, and we don't raise our prices unless we absolutely have to. Make sure that the guest experience is top-notch and better than anywhere else that they could go and spend the limited budget that they have. There's also lots of ways of getting free tickets, and they can earn them, certainly the kids. But sponsorship throughout the community, and like I said, we have 93 different groups. It's fun to me because I look at that roster, and not many of those names have changed in the entire time I've been here, and we haven't always done everything perfectly to take care of them because we're focusing on the attendees and the students, and yet they remain loyal. And sometimes I wonder if it's whether they feel sorry for us in the early years or they just love it. And I think it's that they just love it. It's fun, and it's great for their employees to come out and pitch a hand. So they represent they sort of bridge the gap between that 2/3 of ticket sales. And the other component is we've gotten rid of parking since the pandemic. It just made it easier. It alleviated traffic, and it was easier on our volunteers, and we just include it in the ticket price now, although we can park 26,000 cars. So imagine what that day looks like. There is a little bit that our organization yields from concessions. So buy that roasted corn and that artichoke. but a percentage that we share with the groups that help us serve our attendees. So, and all of it seems to come up to at least near break even every year. And, it's cyclical. So we'll plan in 3 years at a time, knowing that we might make bigger investments that first year and maybe see a little more revenue to invest in youth programs and scholarships and mentor and intern programs the second and third year. And that's okay, because every projection that we've made, certainly in the last 10 years, the board has been really spot on, both being very conservative and growing the organization to serve our community.
Are the sponsors also sponsoring beyond the air show, the events and the activities that take place throughout the year? Okay, so it flows all the way through.
They all know where their money is going for sure. Many of them come out, depending on the topic and the size and the time of year, to either have a panelist or bring a team of employees out for sort of a team building activity to be the volunteers or the table mentors. We're very careful if we have a panel of what future careers might look like. We'll use September 21st as an example, to make sure that if we have 100 tables and there's 10 or 12 kids per table, there's also a community leader or someone that represents one of these amazing careers sitting at that table to make sure that the quieter children get their questions answered and everybody contributes and everybody feels like they walk away with something they didn't have when they came in. So the number of volunteers required to pull off something like that for 2,000 kids is, it's significant, and they're there for the setup, the event, and the time. So we find that the investment isn't always funding, and that when they roll up their sleeves to see what their future pool of talent looks like, they get just as much out of it as the thrill of the Blue Angels or the delightful chaos of the air show. They walk away from a youth event or sitting on our scholarship panel deciding who gets an easier path to go get the education they want for the dream job. And we find that the rolling up your sleeves part is sometimes more valuable than writing a check.
Well, and if we think about it from a recruitment standpoint,
Sure.
the quality of the recruit that you're getting from this process
Sure.
is far greater than somebody who just walks up and says, I want the job with your
Right.
company because that you
Right.
don't know, who hasn't been engaged all the way through.
Right.
So it's just an incredible 360 from
Sure.
just the air show. How about grants? Any grant opportunities?
We do get, I would say it's less than about 8% of our annual funding is currently grants. We're working on it. We're learning how to maneuver that area. It's newer to us. But I think that's a great opportunity because our big goal is to double the number of youth programs that we do and double or triple the number of students that can participate in each one of those topics. And in order to do that, it's going to have to come for grants. There's a few community partners that just send me a link once a year because they know there's only two of us and there's only so much we can get to. And I don't know how I would get through without them. But there's also, like I was mentioning, just recent things that we've really wanted to do. Because I've been here a while and I'm not that shy, I've been able to call some community partners that I know their missions are aligned and their future employee roster might look something like one of those topics. And I'm like, hey, I need an extra $1,500 or I can't feed lunch to all of these kids. And because of where they're coming from, isn't that something we want to do? And I've never in 16 years gotten a no. I can tell you that the companies in this region, even when the economy is a little more challenging, never miss an opportunity to make sure that an extra couple hundred kids can come to something and walk away with a full belly and an inspired mind.
And not have to worry about it.
Sure.
So here's a fun question. Money, no object.
Yeah.
What if that was the case? What would it look like tomorrow?
Sure. If I woke up tomorrow and had the
Here,
dream
Darcy,
scenario.
whatever you want to do. What's your dream? What would you like to see happen?
So my dream is a facility or a classroom that we have full-time access to that we can make available to others. Again, thanks to Sacramento County and the Department of Airports and all the county supervisors and the county executive and the deputy county executive and all these many people that you cross paths with pretty regularly. When we want to do something, we find space to do it. And that lies heavy on the Mather tenants because these are their employees too. And it gives their employees, a distraction from the day-to-day to remember what they dreamed of being when they were 10 or 12 or 14. But if we had a facility when the Tuskegee Airmen Youth Aviation Organization needed a meeting space, and the Red Tails drone educators needed a meeting space, and the Girl Scout STEM Center wanted to come somewhere different and set up something bigger, or the schools or the First Robotics does this great competition every year. They need a huge footprint. It needs to be covered, and out at the Airshow, that's not always available because tenting is expensive and concrete blocks and the setup and all that kind of stuff. But if we had a massive classroom that we could use and loan all year round, that would be a dream scenario that is not within our reach at this time. And that could come about a multitude of ways. Right now, we're doing just fine, but imagine if that was an educational facility 300 days, 360 days a year, and focusing on the workforce needs of our region with a touch of aviation, aerospace, and all the STEM that goes behind creating those things that make our life. Like, whether you're into aviation or not, every time you order something, like, there's aviation in every part of your life. Go visit your grandmother, order something on Amazon. Like, aviation plays a role, and it's growing bigger and bigger as innovation creates more efficiencies and those things get certified within our airspace. We'll all be moving around in electric vehicles that aren't touching the ground, and it's already happening.
I was just going to say, it may not be bigger and bigger in terms of the mass in the sky, but we're going to have drones delivering everything to our homes.
Sure. It's already happening in other countries where they don't have such active airspace. And it's already happening. And, your carbon footprint looks different. Your travel time, and, if you're a Bay Area commuter, that's going to look very different. And it's never been sort of explained quite the same way as when we did our first summer camp this year.
So that building it would just serve so many more people, so many things differently that you can't do today.
Well, and we'd be able to serve our partners that don't have space either. Space is a thing. Space, making sure you have the proper insurance, which is a little easier for us. We would just like more collaborative partners and to be able to serve them better. Right now, we do the best we can with what we've got, both for the programs that we're passionate about and what all of our partners want to do. And I've got a good example for you. But man, if we were permanent long after you and I are both retired and we knew that was going to continue, much like our scholarship program, I would sleep better at night.
So back to reality.
Sure.
What's the greatest need?
The greatest need, and we've been focusing on it, and it was funny you mentioned grants because that's getting us a little further along, is so we're scholarships, internships, mentor programs, and the youth programs year-round. So while we're working our way slowly but surely towards an endowment for our scholarship program that will live forever and tweaking it to fit the needs of the kids and what they want to do, and we start really young, right out of high school. Where are you going? What are you doing? How can we help? The intern programs, their resume, when they walk out of our office, like, it's nuts. It is not uncommon for a high school student that may not even have their driver's license yet to come and help in our office. And while there's a lot of stamps and taking out the trash and organizing credentials and linens, they also graduate to briefing the FAA and congressional staff and all the things I can think of, because when I interview them, I find out what they're most uncomfortable with, and I immediately put them in charge of that. So it's not uncommon for a 17-year-old intern to be briefing a congressional member or a high-ranking member of the FAA, or doing a tour at the state-of-the-art air traffic control facility right at the end of our runway that controls all the airspace between LA Center and Seattle Center. So imagine you walk away with that and you're 15, 16, 17, 18, and now you go out into the world. What are you afraid of? Nothing, because I have already put you through a meat grinder.
Yeah, right?
So we've had 30 interns in 3 years. So in answer to your question.
You said that a little quickly. Let's say 30 interns in
30 interns in 16 years.
16 years.
Many of those interns have gone on to me idolizing them. They're doing amazing things. And it's interesting to me because the kids that come through our doorway that are specifically looking for aviation careers are small, and then they find themselves touching on it anyway. So my very first intern was communications major at Sac State, single mom, needed the credits to graduate, didn't care about an airplane unless she was going to visit family on a Southwest flight, right? 16 years later, we're still desperately close. She's more like family than, and again, she's probably mentoring me now and the tables have turned, but she's the National Safety Program Manager for Joby Aviation, one of the leading resources for the near future urban air mobility and how people are going to get around and how we're going to be delivering pharmaceuticals and pizzas. And they're already certified and they're in Santa Cruz and she makes twice what I do. And I love her. She's the funniest person I know. But I've gotten many stories like that. And I think when I'm done and I'm finally taking my final nap, the only thing that will be on my headstone is she loved her interns more than anything because these people inspire me every day. But the greatest need. So this year, our hopes and dreams were to develop a summer camp that blew everybody away. We weren't able to do it. I got a little extra funding this year, mostly in the form of grants from several community partners. And the Organization of Black Aerospace Professionals came to us. It's a national organization, and they've got sections throughout the country. And they said, we just need a space. We would like to take our camp program to the next level. And I'm like, I got you. So I have a big space for them. It's a 5-day program. And we imprinted their program to the point where on Monday, a couple dozen kids show up, full commitment. You can't miss it. You can't be late one day. You can't miss a single day or you're not going to get the whole thing. And what moved me the most was on Monday when we did the housekeeping and here's what you can expect and here's your journal for when you're on a bus. And because every time we went to a facility, we encouraged them to be like you and interview people. Get the meat out of what did you think you were going to be when you were my age and how did you get there and what obstacles did you overcome? And it was all about the careers, right?
Learn something, yes.
But the critical part to this and why we want to double what we did this year, next year, and every year moving forward is I said, okay, guys, you're inside these secure airport gates at Mather Airport. You're in a pilot briefing room for the next 5 days. This is where we're going to start. This is where we're going to end. What jobs do you think are inside these gates? And every hand went up because those were the kids we picked, right? And it was all sponsored. It was great. And they all said pilot, which I expected. So then they spend time at the air traffic control facility and the tower and wildlife management and medevac people and fire people and law enforcement people. And they did an air-to-air refueling mission at Travis Air Force Base eating Jersey Mike's sub sandwiches over the Golden Gate Bridge, and they're 13 years old. Pretty darn cool. Their parents and guardians really wanted to be with them. That wasn't possible. But on Friday, after they had had miles and miles and some 10, 12-hour days of their summer camp, I asked them again. And they had taken an introductory flight if they were graduating, and they all did, and had a great lunch and backpacks and all these wonderful things on their graduation day. I asked them, what jobs do you think are inside these gates? And I literally got more than 60 answers from less than 30 kids.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
That's my metrics, and that's my goal. I want to keep doing these things. I want to expose them to things they never thought about, and I want them to go get these jobs. Sometimes it's breaking a chain. Sometimes it's just beyond their imagination, and they couldn't be it if they didn't see it and meet that person that does it and find out how they can get there. And that's all we want to do at the Capital Airshow Group is have that response like we had on the first graduating day of our first summer camp, which is, their horizons were broadened and their minds were expanded and their imaginations were going wild about what they were going to be when they grew up. And although you and I might still be wondering what we're going to be when we grow up, these kids have a better idea than they did on Monday.
Somebody wants to get hold of you.
Sure.
What's the best way to connect?
Send an email. Call the office. It's super simple. CaliforniaCapitalAirshow.com or just, we've been around so long now. If you just put Sacramento Airshow or Capital Airshow or any words that you heard today into your favorite search engine, we're going to pop up and you can send us a note on the contact page. You can sign up to be a volunteer and be behind the scenes, whether it's in the office, in the hangar for a classroom, or at the air show. Meet some of the hottest pilots and the coolest performers and certainly the neatest people in town that produce this every year. Keep in mind, many of these volunteers have been here longer than I have. Why? Because it's awesome. if you want to spend $25 or a couple $100 and send a kid to summer camp, there's a donate button on our website. But there's only 2 people in the office. You're only going to get Angela or myself. Everything we talked about today is what we do every day and what we talk about anywhere we go. People who want to get involved, whether it's a funding or a volunteer commitment, won't be sorry, and you might not ever leave. So be careful what you ask for.
I can't say that I'm disappointed in your energy, your enthusiasm, or your passion for what you're doing. It is incredible. And I can see why these past 16 years have taken this air show to where it is today and the impact it's had in the community. I hope we've given the listener an understanding of what takes place behind the air show. And I'm not talking about the logistics to make it happen, but all the good that takes place that you and all those volunteers, 1,300 plus of them throughout the year, cause to happen to the benefit of our community.
Yeah.
And how many students you've touched, how many foster children, how many students that were lost or homes that are challenged in terms of getting a proper education, that maybe you just triggered enough to get that student through school to go on to the next step to where they actually have an idea of what they're doing.
Right.
And that would not have happened if we didn't have this air show.
Well, and it wouldn't happen without those airplanes. I mean, when those jets fly, everybody listens to what you're saying. And you might not be saying, go fly an F-18. You might be saying, go soar any way that you want to, and we'll help you.
Understated, but absolutely needing to be underscored. The significance of what you do is huge in the community. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you very much. And the last 16 years have flown by in like an instant. So, yeah.
I want to keep going on the puns, but I'm going to stop right there because that was wonderful. Thanks, Darcy.
Thank you so much for letting us share what's important to us and what we do out at the airport.
Wonderful. Thank you for listening to the Nonprofit Podcast Network. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If what you heard moved you, please reach out to that organization and do what you can to help. If you like and appreciate what we're doing to support local nonprofits, please give us a positive review, subscribe, and share. If you're a nonprofit with an interest in participating in an episode, you can reach me at jeff@hearmenowstudio.com. If you have a need for the services or products our sponsors offer, please reach out to them. CapTrust, fiduciary advice for endowments and foundations. Runyon Saltzman Incorporated, RSE, marketing, advertising, and public relations, creating integrated communications committed to improving lives. And Western Health Advantage, a full-service healthcare plan for individuals, employer groups, and families. The Nonprofit Podcast Network is a production of, is recorded at, and edited by Hear Me Now Studio.